October's Game Jam. So Game Jam is when developers basically get allocated time to work on like passion projects, right? And usually that sources a lot of like really good updates, specifically like quality of life updates. It's Game Jam time again, and we're ready to reveal the latest ideas from JMod's read on for all cool new concepts that came out of October's Game Jam. From new board game locations to Daemonheim Archaeology and beyond. All about Game Jam. Game Jams are a chance for developers to form small teams and conceptualize, design, and build a functioning version of one or more game projects. To allow for total focus, this activity takes place over a restricted period, anything from a few hours to a number of days. At JX, we run a week-long game jam every few months. Wait, really? It's a constant thing? I didn't know that. Honestly, that's good. I think giving developers the time and space to be able to work on like passion projects that also like wanted by the community and good for the game is a very good thing. And usually just like, it just results in just higher quality content. So, why we jam? Game jam sessions are an important part of the creative process. They give us time and space to think outside the umbral chest, to be proactive, not just reactive. I feel like surely content also produces that, but sure. We can experiment and come up with new ideas that wouldn't have occurred to us in normal dev time. We can also focus on projects we're passionate about that don't make the priority list or keep getting pushed back. We run game jams regularly because they give us inspiration, help us to improve the game, and allow us to experiment with new working practices we've not tried yet. How does it work? Everyone at JX can join the jam, including non-developers. So if I remember correctly, like Mod Shawnee actually made a lot of really, really good content through Game Jam, and he was a community manager, right? He was one of the ones who actually pushed the buff bar, right? So yeah, anyways, we often see people in other departments joining the fun because of course they love games too. Participants organize themselves into small groups, then spend a few days brainstorming, discussing, and building. I always thought that Game Jam was a very independent thing. Like everyone just works on their own thing, but it seems like it's team-based now. On the final day, all the teams present their prototypes and everyone joins in to feedback. The best ideas might lead to direct improvements, for example, Mod Blackwitch and Mod Alex's graphical updates for a large part of the free-to-play area, or they might be considered for future content drops. That's good. Game jams can even lead to something major like a new skill. Really? That's interesting. I'd like to see... I don't know how popular this is, but I really, really liked PAG, right? I think PAG gave JX a lot of like resources to work with for like quality of life updates. And I think having something like that work within these game jams would be good. Basically like building up a expert player-based team, right? Like PAG, and then incorporate it into like game jam ideas. I think that would be really good. I've always said like the strongest part of RuneScape is the community, and the community is just so willing to put in so much effort and time into making this game better. And I think Jay should always be willing to use that. Or not use that, but like allow players to help them, right? Now let's see what our mods were working on during October's Game Jam. So this is just a singular month. Interesting. Are we gonna have one of these like every month? That's kind of crazy. I like the idea of that. I mean, regardless what you think of the community as its reputation goes, you can't deny that the community is willing to put in a ridiculous amount of effort in making the game better. Like look at PVME, look at the RuneScape wiki. There's just countless examples, right? Like the PVME, well, PVME is not really unprecedented. Maybe the quality and the quantity of PVME is unprecedented in the gaming community, but I would say the wiki, the quality of the wiki and the depth of the wiki is insane and unprecedented. I think the PAG was unprecedented. I don't know. I think the community is RuneScape's biggest strength when it comes to developing the game to be better. Okay, so October Game Jam, the ideas. Aura pausing, concept, auras. Except green fingers are now paused while you are logged out. Interesting. I think that's good. But it doesn't fix the issue of auras, in my opinion. I think the issue of auras is that it's hourly based, and if you don't make use of that hour, you kind of feel like you're wasting time. Or like, for example, you start an hour doing something, then your friend asks you to do something else. You're reluctant to commit because you've already committed an aura to it, right? And removing it and doing something else would be wasteful. So I think this is a good change, but it doesn't solve the issue of auras, you know? Like, I personally think auras, I've made this suggestion pretty clear in the past, but I think auras should be just a toggle on and off, and toggling it on would yield you half the strength of the aura, and if you pay with Wizwax, you get the full strength, and you can turn it on and off whenever. The downside of this would be that you can no longer freely use auras at its fullest potential, but at the same time it gives you complete freedom of being able to turn auras on and off whenever you want without having to worry about like being on the hour or having to have resets and stuff like that. And obviously you would make it so the cost of Wizwax would be lower because more people would be incentivized in using Wizwax to get their full potential aura. So you would make the use cost of auras lower, right? Is basically what I'm saying. So like there's a downside to the suggestion that I'm making, which is like you can no longer use auras for free, but at the same time it wouldn't be that expensive because you would lower it to the point, you would lower it like significantly because a lot more people will be using Wizwax to be able to use auras, right? Because you don't want to make Wizwax completely redundant. At the same time, would it be bad? Actually, now that I think about it, would it be bad if if Wizwax became redundant in the use of auras? Because Wizwax already has like a high demand for like dailies, right? And like dailies like challenges and divine location, right? Does it need that sync for auras as well? Probably not. So in actuality, I think you could probably go through with having auras turn on and off at its fullest potential without having to use Wizwax. Like, would that be a bad thing? Like, would it be bad to be able to turn auras on and off whenever you want? No aura refresh, no Wizwax usage? Would that be bad? I don't see that as being bad. Because one thing I always want in video games is for people to have the complete freedom of being able to do whatever they want without being held back by certain like time sinks, right? When I say time sync, I mean like if you activate an aura and you are asked to do something else, you have to do something else. You have to remove that aura. That is a aura reset potentially being sunk and Wizwax potentially being sunk, right? But yeah, I mean, regardless, I think this is good. It's just, it doesn't really solve the aura issue in my opinion. At the same time, I don't think the aura issue is that big of a deal. I want to make it clear. Like, I don't think like the whole aura mentality, the hour mentality it's bad, but it's not that big of a deal. You know, would I rather auras work one way over the other? Yes. Do I think this is a major issue? No. you know. But then again, that's my opinion. So, dev comment. I know that players have been asking for this feature for years. A lot of you aren't able to take full advantage of your auras at the moment due to real-life responsibilities that get in the way of long uninterrupted play sessions. This change would motivate players to make use of their auras even if they don't have a lot of time to play in one sitting. Yeah, good. Icthlarin Little Helpers quest improvement. Mod Stew. Concept. Smooth some intermediate quests, rougher gameplay edges considering features that have since been added, as well as contemporary quest design guidelines. For example, you would no longer need to supply the quest giver with a tinderbox, nowadays a tool belt item, and a full water skin which a player will likely sip from while talking to her. Okay, that works. You'd see the edges of the traps in Clenter's pyramid. If you fall into a trapdoor, it would remain open for a couple of minutes and would be visible to other players. Whoa! Visual clarity? Whoa, boys! Am I seeing a little bit of the visual clarity creep? You'd love to see it. You'd love to see it. See, there's always been a major conflict between visual clarity and immersion, right? I am always someone that sits on the side of visual clarity. Like, I'd rather have this visual clarity in this image over not having it, and for the environment or the floor to be more immersive. I say immersive because, like, it doesn't really, in my opinion, break your enjoyment of the game, right? Obviously, immersion does matter, but I don't think you should ever compromise gameplay or visual clarity. You should always be able to see what's going on and what's happening and where everything is. The RNG failure mechanic would be toned down. For example, the likelihood of even with 99 agility that you fall into the pit near the end of Clenter's pyramid, meaning you have to repeat the pyramid's traps and hazards. Since items on your tool belt are now used and Menaphos exists, you could now get sap nearby from Arcadia trees. Generally find the information you need on the critical path, and your interactions would be more mobile friendly. Sure, that's fine with me. That is completely fine. So dev comment, I picked Icthlarin's Helper because it has some appealing rewards, e.g. Sophanum Slayer Dungeon, double Slayer points via smoking kills, but also mechanics that are likely to frustrate non-questers or encourage the habit of following a quest guide. The whole experience could be significantly improved with a few content fixes rather than requiring a full rework. Wow, that's actually very well said, you know? Like, this quest is very core to a lot of really big rewards, and he's basically saying that instead of just reworking the whole thing, he just, you know, fixed a few major things, or all of the major things. That is actually a very well said, in my opinion. Like, very well justified. Like, I understand it. I agree with it. Bonus game jam stuff. Oh, Stu. Okay, right. So more things by Stu. Released in October 24th's update. See patch notes removed. Okay, so we've already gone through this before. Right. Yep. So these are just old patch note updates from October 24th. Which we have gone through before in the past, so we're not going to go through again. Daemonheim Archaeology. Okay. I don't think this is necessary. Like, I'm not really complaining, right? I'm just saying, like, it's not really necessary, right? To have Daemonheim constantly be updated to present day content. A new Daemonheim Archaeology mini site and narrative. Okay, never mind. I changed my mind. Never mind. Okay, I'm sold. If there's narrative behind it, I'll take it. You know, I thought it was just an implementation of archaeology spots like divination within Daemonheim. Because what they did with divination was kind of like, you know, didn't really do anything. Whereas this is including a narrative, which is interesting. While working on potential dungeoneering ninja fixes, I was reminded of how many mysteries and narrative plot threads were left unanswered by shift in development for the skill. Given the success of archaeology at the Sintistan mini site, plus the fact that the skill has lots of frustrating level gaps, especially around 70 and 80, I thought there was a way we could solve this problem using Daemonheim. My goal over the course of the week was to create a full design for a mini site, decide what questions I wanted to pose and answer, and provide some tension at the end. Ooh, that sounds good. That sounds really intriguing. I like that. The obvious plot points are why the heck is there Dragonkin settlement there? And what exactly was Bilrak trying to achieve down in the depths? Okay, I'm sold. I'm actually sold, because those are two big questions that I'd like to really delve into. I'm kind of excited about this. Okay, it was unexpected. There are some plots woven into the design, and I found an opportunity to possibly tease some future content as well. Okay. I like it. While the project hasn't had official sign-off yet, what? Come on, man, sign it off. It sounds so good. It was a good opportunity to flex some design muscles. As it stands, the design is almost complete, but I still need to do a bulk of the writing and actual development. Damn. That sounds good. That sounds good to me. Cross-world presence. Mod Sammy and Mod Ashes. Play avatars are beamed across the abyss and replicated on separate worlds. What you do on one world can be seen on another. Interesting. Wait. I've never seen this in any game. This is interesting. It's just a projection, right? It's not like you're instanced in the same area. I'm thinking of, okay, I'm just going to continue reading. Dev comment. Some locations in RuneScape can get lonely, especially when you play in a quiet world. Cross-world presence helps to address this by connecting a number of worlds, allowing player avatars to be shared across them in appropriate locations such as Grand Exchange or the War's Retreat. If World 101 and World 13 were connected, for example, that would mean when I play on World 101, I could see players from World 13. If World 101 and 13 were connected, so the connection is something that JMods do, not players. So you can't project yourself onto a specific world that is decided by the system or Jagex manually. This is interesting. I'm trying to think of the pros and cons. Oh yeah, I'll just continue reading. Remote player from World 13 seen from the perspective of a player on World 101. So like this, okay. So there's no difference between a projection and a real player. Because we're not on the same worlds, interactions such as trade, dueling, and request assistance don't work. If players want to do these things together, they need to hop to the same world. Ideally, we'd remove these interactions and perhaps add a join world right-click option, but we ran out of time. Ooh, a join world right-click option actually sounds pretty interesting. All right, let's continue. Right, okay, so player on World 101 attempts to trade with a remote player from World 13. Oh, so it also gives you the option? Sure. I would have probably preferred it if there was no option to trade, duel, or request assist at that point. Crucially, in game public chat is shared across worlds, allowing you to do as much socializing as you like. To help differentiate remote players from players that are actually on your world, we've added an indicator to the player's username, e.g. world13. Oh, you see here, so Sammy4 and then 123 Sammy4, world13. Interesting. Given the time, we would have also loved to make remote players obvious from appearance alone. Example, public chat with a remote player. When you leave the bounds of a shared area, your avatar is no longer shared cross-world, and remote players will no longer be able to see you on their world. I feel like this is weird. I still don't know how I feel about it. However, you will still be able to peer into shared areas and see remote players from the distance, effectively making the entrance to the Grand Exchange an archway into a more populated zone. Perspective from each linked world when there's a player outside. So this is basically describing this. At this point, you may be thinking, why not work on bigger servers or technology such as layering or sharding, which allow players to connect to different servers seamlessly? Good question. Well, while ideal, that would involve fundamentally redesigning how RuneScape works. From an engine and content perspective, it's just too much work at the moment. That's precisely why this refined approach is more realistic and gets us what we want: more social interaction among players. I'm gonna say something. I'm gonna throw a spanner in the works. If you want the game to be more social, maybe make less AFK content. Just a thought. Maybe make less AFK and solo content. That would probably help. I generally believe the reason for the decline of social interactions in RuneScape is because of just RuneScape embracing themselves as a second monitor game and just introducing an abundant amount of like AFK and solo content. Now, let's be clear. This technology isn't ready to be to release and isn't on the roadmap. Think of it as a cool technical demonstration of what we could achieve with cross-world presence. If there's an appetite for it, however, I'm sure we can get the ball rolling. That's precisely why we're curious to hear what you think and any ideas you may have to utilize this technology. There have already been some fascinating ideas come up internally, such as allowing free-to-play players and subscribed players to see each other on their respective worlds. What do I think of this? This is something I've never seen in any game before. This is really interesting. Obviously, the question that they posed was what I would prefer, right? Having more populated worlds, but also have them function without latency. Meaning so, like, basically, like, cut the amount of worlds down to a quarter of what they are now. However, make it so it doesn't impact gameplay or latency. But I don't think that is realistically possible, as they've just stated. This is an interesting way of doing it. The only question I would ask... It's weird that only certain areas would have this, like Grand Exchange and War's Retreat, rather than worldwide. I assume, again, it comes down to a technical limitation. However, the question that I would pose, the concern I have is, would this impact server performance? Would we experience increased latency with this addition? That would be my main concern. If not, I don't think it's that big of a deal, but at the same time, I don't think this can fully flourish unless it's worldwide and not just Grand Exchange and War's Retreat. But if it will impact server performance and it will increase latency, I don't want this. I don't think it's a good idea. I just think that we should all be in the same world. I feel like free-to-play is way too secluded and limited. Especially like nowadays. I imagine it's like very barren, right? Luckily, when I played back in free-to-play, back in like 2006-07, like free-to-play, I'm pretty sure was more popular than members. So it was a totally different experience. This is correct. So with the cross-world thing, I think you'd have the same issue because technically the server population would be the same. This is correct. The dev that did it in such a way that very little info passed between servers, so it's negligible effect on servers. Okay. I hope this is true. If this is true and they've stress tested it, right? They've actually like tested it, then sure. I have no concerns. I don't think this is a bad thing. However, I will say again that I feel like, is there a reason? What would happen if they did this worldwide? You know? What would happen if they did this worldwide and not the GE and War's Retreat only? Would that be too much? I don't know. Anyways, I'm just going to move on. Like, it's one of those things where I think the idea is good, but it's like because of technical technical limitations, it's just not gonna be good enough for me to like care too much about either way. But moving on, Croesus quality of life improvements mod desert. Oh, not desert, desert. Quality of life improvements to the Croesus experience. Dev comment, while taking Croesus in my spare time, a few things were annoying to me, so I decided to improve them. Here are the things I looked at changing. So the one thing I would want from Croesus is for the point system to be reworked. I think the fact that you wait for the energy fungus and the energy fungus is the main source of contribution points is dumb. I think the fact that people actually slow down the process of defeating Croesus to farm points is dumb, right? I think the best way to do Croesus should be just going fast, no matter what skill level you are at, right? I know at some points, depending on what you're doing, how good you are, how reliable of a team you have, going fast is better than stalling for the energy fungus. However, it should be like that for all skill levels, right? Like imagine doing Carapac, and then like to do Carapac properly and to get the maximum amount of loot, you have to wait for lightning. You have to wait for the lightning wall. If you don't wait for the lightning wall, you don't get 3 loot piles. How that sounds extremely dumb, but it's pretty much the same thing. All right, let's see if the point rework is here. Preventing autocollect running under most circumstances. Preventing autocollect running. Wait, what does this mean? The scavenging legendary pets Cedarside and Charming Imp no longer try or succeed at taking the boss loot to your backpack. So charms will always go to the chest now, basically. And seeds as well. Sure, okay. That's fine. But doesn't the chest fill up? Or do they expand the chest quantity? I don't remember. I remember that at one point the chest would overfill very quickly. And with this, it will like certainly overfill. But I don't remember if they expanded the quantity that the chest can contain. Allowing examine of statues and storages to show more information. Okay, that sounds good. Allowing players to rot fungus without interrupting current action. Sure. Allowing blade dive onto skilling nodes. I think this means that if you blade dive onto skilling nodes, you will start skilling on the node after diving. Plus, there's a teaser around adding bladed dive to archaeology. Wait, blade dive as a reward rather than having to unlock it through shared worlds? Is that what this means? Or am I... Oh, no. Sorry. This is blade dived onto an archaeology excavation spot and you start excavating. You like dash to the excavation spot and you start excavating. That's probably what it means. Sorry. That's 100% what it means. I just misunderstood for a second. Okay, well, this doesn't include the point rework. Am I alone here? Like, is it not dumb that you have to milk and wait out for the energy fungus? Like, to me, this is like the first thing I would change about Croesus. Like, I don't understand. Like, that is like on day one, like almost everyone figured that out. Like, figured out that stalling and waiting for the energy fungus was the best way to farm and consistently do Croesus. And it's a very dumb way of doing a boss, right? You're like purposely waiting out and stalling. Like, there's cases where you're just literally AFK for a whole minute, right? For a whole minute. That's like 20% of the fight, just waiting for an energy fungus to spawn. That is not good game design, in my opinion. Yeah, but I think that this should be the case. I think going as fast as possible, I think killing a boss fast as possible should always be the goal. Regardless of group size or skill level. So yeah, in some group sizes, with some people with certain like consistencies and skill levels, it is better to go fast. But that's not for the majority of players that engage with the content, and that's not for the majority of players in general. It's just in my opinion, I think it's just a bad game design. Like, again, imagine this, right? Imagine this. If you killed Karapak without spawning a single lightning wall, you would get one drop pile. If you milked out every lightning wall of every phase, you would get 5 drop piles. Is that good game design? It's almost exactly the same concept as Croesus. Probably not as severe because people don't hate the energy fungus, but they hate the lightning wall. But the concept is the same. It just makes no sense. Anyways, moving on. Board games around Gielinor. Mod Luma. Putting board games around the world in multiple locations. Ooh, I like this. Dev comment, board games have long been neglected down in the dingy basement of Bothorpe Castle. It'd be nice to be able to play them in other locations throughout the game. This would mean board games in all sorts of places, including taverns, the Grand Exchange, Falador Party Room, Menopause, and Profindus. Choose from Draughts, Rune Link, Rune Versi, and Rune Squares. 5 new achievements, 4 new titles to show off your board game mastery. Okay. I don't know about the new titles. I don't think you need to add. I don't think you need to implement like rewards on the other end of something for fun like this, right? Also, I would like to see them add more game modes. Like, if there's one thing I could ask for is like more game modes. Maybe even somehow implement whatchamacallit? What's the chess of RuneScape? The pest control chess game. I would like to see that in like public areas, but I don't know if that'd work. Conquest, there we go. Yeah. Combat consistency. Mod Sponge. Removing some of the inconsistencies from combat. So, hit chance buffs can be very hard to truly understand because there's no determined order for them. And values are calculated after each buff. For example, using 50% hit chance when equipping Reaver's Ring -5% and summoning a Nihil +5%, you'd probably expect to still be at 50% hit chance. However, they'd actually be at around 49.8%. So rewrote buffs so they apply in a consistent order. Absolute value increases and now always apply before percentage value increases. So buffs are totaled and then that total is applied once. In the Reaver example above, a Reaver would essentially just cancel out a Nihil. So buffs are totaled and that total is applied. Okay. Remove some outdated exceptions to buffs such as salve amulets not working against all undead or Darklight not working against Krill. I like that. Reduce the complexity of the system so bugs are less likely to occur for new modifiers. Okay, sounds pretty good. Sounds good. That sounds very good. Sure. Because, yeah, like, accuracy and hit chance has always been such a muddle, honestly. Same with, like, damage reduction as well. Damage reduction is also such a, just a bowl of spaghetti. Oh wait, this is the end. Okay. I also began doing the same for damage calculation part for the damage calculation part of the combat system, reducing the overall complexity from a developer's side, so we can look at condensing down all the damage modifiers into fewer areas, and therefore making them easier for players to understand. Additionally, I looked at giving Berserker auras a small rework, which would involve extending their duration to an hour, ensuring damage boost is now applied whilst damage boosting ultimates are active. Okay. Wait, that's a pretty big buff. Removing the stat... Removing the Nah. Wait. Removing the stat boost and the accuracy boost would make it so you're you have like significantly lower accuracy. Figured I'd post here with my 2 cents as getting a fair amount of screaming in my DMs. Well, yeah, because like one of the biggest factors of Zerk auras is the massive accuracy boost that it provides. It's huge, by the way. It's like if we go and use Chipapa's accuracy calculator, if someone can link that, you can actually like see the difference between like having these two modifiers and not having them. It is colossal. Although they can do this completely fine and just make accuracy not really a thing and just lower the defense of all monsters in the game so we never see a fucking splash ever again in our lives. Thoughts? Okay, so Zerk auras. Right now, Berserkers are pretty overloaded where you only really ever want to use them and nothing else. Obviously, there's a drawback. The drawback being that they're 30 minutes. If we're removing that drawback, ooh, no. If we're removing that drawback, as players continue to request, the Combat Council decide that they shouldn't be the best. Ooh, see, this is like a huge thing that I feel like a lot of developers in games do that I don't like. Okay, I'm just gonna continue reading. Like, I don't like the fact that if you buff something, you have to nerf something else. If you nerf something, you have to buff something else. You can just buff something and it's fine, you know? There doesn't need to be a balance where a balance isn't needed, right? He does make a good point that these auras are basically like, these auras are the only auras people really use, right? People don't really use accuracy auras anymore. But why is that? You know, you should look at like why people do this rather than just trying to balance things out to make people use other auras. You know? Like people don't like splashing. Splashing is horrible. And also, generally speaking, lowering the player's power level is generally just never a popular thing to do, right? If we're removing that drawback as players continually request, the Combat Council decided that they shouldn't be the best for every situation like they are in live, and variation is better and healthier for the game. Right now, there's no plans to release the Zerk aura changes, probably until accuracy is in a better place. Okay, fair. If we do release it at some point, I'd be all for buffing accuracy auras so high defense situations are negatively affected, or introducing more accuracy boosting equipment options for things like AOD or Rago. Defense situations are negatively affected, or introducing more accuracy boosting equipment options for things like... A lot of players will disagree with the changes because, e.g. AOD is harder or impossible to hit 100% hit chance. But I argue that we should offer permanent ways to hit these accuracy thresholds without the reliance on an aura. E.g. more gear unlocks that bring me to the threshold rather than I can't do the content guys, Zerk aura is on cooldown. Again, I'll say again, I don't think that creating diversity within auras is necessarily good, because I don't really like the aura system to begin with. And if you want to prevent this from happening, I can't do the content guys, Zerk auras on cooldown. How about just making all auras just an on and off option? How about just make it so auras are a on and off option, and they no longer require Wizwax, because Wizwax already has a lot of other use and sync, like challenges and divine locations. What if you could just turn auras on and off without any downside? Why would that be bad? Does anyone disagree with auras being a on and off option? Does anyone have any criticism or any like real issues with auras being a on and off option? Basically what I'm saying is you can literally just toggle an aura on and off without any drawbacks or issues. Yes, aura refreshes will become redundant, but you could probably make it so you cash them in for Reaper back into Reaper points. And Wizwax would still have like high demand because of daily challenges, or man, I don't like the aura system overall. More Switchscape, aura Switchscape breeding. I would make it so you can't switch auras unless you're at a bank. That's what I would do. I would make it so you can't turn auras on and off unless you're at a bank. So you wouldn't be able to Switchscape breed. But then again, that would make it so like some speed kills utilize removing auras and activating other auras. But like, does that really matter? I don't think so. I think if you had to spend Wizwax to use the aura, then yeah. But why? Why does Wizwax need to be used? There's a downside with, like, so you can make it so auras can be turned on and off, but then you would need to use Wizwax to turn it on and off. But then the problem with that is that auras will no longer have like a free option, right? You'd always have to pay for auras, even though they'd be significantly less compared to before, right? Because you would lower the use amount, because more people will be probably using Wizwax, or more people will be using this active aura feature. Or out of combat. No, out of combat can kind of be out of combat is doable at certain bosses. I think you should just make it so it's just at a bank. Combine wax with refreshers to change the aura or something, but why? Why does it need to be a reward slot like you're suggesting? So it's literally archaeology relics? Yeah. Would that be a bad thing? Yeah, kind of, yeah. It'd be like archaeology relics, right? You can just adjust them in the bank and yeah. I don't think that would be a bad thing. Yeah, I don't know. I'm like thinking about it and I'm just like, I like it the more I think about it. 3 auras activate at once. Okay, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. As long as it's limited to bank or something, I would be... Yeah. I'd personally make it so auras can be turned on and off whenever you want. But you could do it at a bank only. And that's it. No longer will people be bound by our auras. No longer will people feel bad about removing auras or having to do something else. Do you know how many times, chat? Hey, MIW, you want to play a game? No, I'm doing a Solak hour. I've got 50 minutes left. I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake. Oh my god. Hey, you want to play a game? Hey, you guys want to do something? Oh no, I'm on aura at the moment. 40 minutes left. Oh god, I can't do it. No. Yo, I just started an hour. I can't stop now. I physically cannot stop what I'm doing because it'd be wasteful. It's like, bitch, stop it. Just remove your aura. God damn it. I'm gonna get a plane ticket to America, come to your fucking house, break into your house, and remove your fucking aura. Then we gaming. Okay, I'm not doing that because that's kind of illegal. I'm not breaking into anyone's house. I'm just joking. House is burning down. Sorry, just popped Manny. Dude, I'm pretty sure if someone was on aura and the fire alarm went off, they'd have like second thoughts about leaving. I would not be surprised. They'd think, oh, it's probably just a false alarm. I'm not leaving. No. I'm on aura. But yeah, I don't like this. I mean, at the same time, they've clearly stated that this isn't something that's coming out. I just don't like the idea. Like, I don't like this philosophy of like, just because you buff something, you need to nerf something. Just because you nerf something, you need to buff something, you know? Like, for example, like, about a year ago, I suggested removing the green shield at KK, right? The green shield at KK, for people that don't know, KK at some point at a certain HP threshold has a chance of proccing a green shield, which basically converts all the damage that it takes to healing, and it's completely random and there's no way to deal with it, right? I suggested, hey, just remove the green shield completely. And you know what most people responded with? Most people responded with, oh, but then you gotta buff it some way, right? You gotta make it stronger some way. You gotta add some other mechanic, you know? No, you don't. It's an old piece of content, and removing the green shield would make the encounter infinitely more fun. You don't always need to replace something that you remove or add, in my opinion. And I also don't like the idea of creating variety or diversity within auras. Like, Sponge makes a good point of like how people pretty much only use Zerk auras. Not exactly, but for the most part, right? I mean, it does have drawbacks for some people, right? Like, when you do use Zerk auras at bosses that don't have 100% hit chance, for example, at Solak when you're not tanking, or AoD when you're not tanking, when you're using Zerk auras, you take way more damage, right? And for some people, that's a boundary that they're not willing to push yet, like over like using Majra, right? Or Invig. Or Inspiration used to be a thing when range used to be a thing, right? I don't think it's a thing. Do people still use Inspiration when using range? Yes. Interesting. Inspiration is still good at high and rage Arc Glacial, I imagine. Okay. I was just thinking maybe like in Vig, No. But yeah. That's October's game jam. Not bad. I think my favorite is the Daemonheim Archaeology. And the fact that this hasn't been like flagged as good to go is kind of disappointing. Like, I definitely think this Daemonheim Archaeology game jam is the most exciting. What's your rating out of 10? Okay, Icthlarin. So aura pausing is just good. It doesn't really solve the issue with auras in my opinion, but it's good. Icthlarin's little helper, really good. Really good ideology in my opinion by Modstu, right? Modstu actually like his wording and his explanation and his justification for what he has done was really good. Even though this update doesn't mean anything to me, doesn't affect me in any way, I like his vision. I like the visual clarity that he's put out. I like a lot of this. I like a lot of like Modstu's work actually. I think he's a really, really good developer. Again, even though it doesn't really affect me in any shape or form. Daemonheim Archaeology, I'm super excited for. I would love this. This sounds so good. I think intertwining lore, quests, bossing, and skilling all together is such a good way of creating content. And I think this basically expands on it. I feel like Daemonheim and Bilrak, especially as a Madra, have such... There's such interesting topics, right? That I would love to learn more about. The cross-world presence... This one's... I still don't know how I feel about this. I'm going to be a bit reserved here. I don't want to make like a knee-jerk, like, kind of like comment on it or opinion on it. This is something I've never seen in any game before, and it's pretty interesting. Obviously, it's the... I do acknowledge, based on the point that they made down here, right? That it is probably the best way of making the game more social. And as long as it doesn't have an impact on the game, on the server performance and the game latency, I have no issue with it. However, I think it would be better and more seamless and more immersive if it worked all across the world and not just in hotspots like the Grand Exchange and War's Retreat. But I don't know if that would delve in, that would fall under like technical limitations. I don't know. Yeah, it's just like, if it's only the Grand Exchange and War's Retreat, it's just like, you know? And at the same time, if you want to make the game more social, just make less AFK content and make less solo content, you know? It's not like the game has become less social because of no apparent reasons, because of the direction of the game, in my opinion. Croesus quality of life improvements. These are all decent. However, the biggest point I would make for Croesus is that the way you farm contribution is really badly designed, and it should be reworked so people aren't incentivized to stall for energy fungi rather than killing the boss as fast as possible, right? That is literally the only thing that I would have wanted for Croesus, and it's not there, unfortunately. Board games around Gilnor, good. Don't know about adding rewards behind it, because rather than people doing it for fun, people will be incentivized to do it for rewards. Also, I would love to see Conquest be implemented somehow, but I don't know if that's possible, because it has its own arena and interface, and it might be hard to like translate over to the overworld. Combat consistency. I like this part. Removing some inconsistencies from combat. I think this is really good. Really, really, really good. And I would love to see this with damage reduction as well. Damage reduction also is very, very scuffed in how it works. So I would love to see that as well be like redefined, like the hit chance has here. However, I do not like the aura changes, as probably everyone does, right? Like, I mean, no one does. I do like the idea of ensuring damage boost is now applied whilst damage boosting ultimates are active. Not because it's a buff and I like doing more damage, but because it makes sense, right? If you ask a new player, hey, do you think your damage modifier provided from this aura works under this damage modifier from this ability, they'd probably say yes, right? Like everyone would say yes. That's just, you know, just normal intuition when playing video games, right? Like it's just, yeah, of course it does. Many people don't even know. Yeah, exactly. That's why I like this update. Again, not because me do more damage, boom, boom, but because it just makes more sense. I do not like these two. But again, like Sponge said on Reddit, these aren't necessarily ready to go. And if he is going to do this, he's going to make accuracy less of a crutch, right? So don't forget hammer and G stuff. Yeah, obviously. But like, I'm doing this to just showcase the actual like baseline difference between like having the Zerk boost and not the Zerk boost. Okay, so like to give you an idea of what the Zerk boost does, okay? So this is how much of an accuracy it gives you. It gives you 13.7% accuracy boost at AOD. So you'd lose out on 13.7% accuracy boost if these two were removed. That's how big of a deal the accuracy boost of Zerka auras are. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it though. That's pretty much it for the October's Game Jam. Hope you guys enjoyed the run through. Poggly pog.